Well, folks, as you know, I love one show on TV more than any show on TV. The View.
Gary!
Whoopi Goldberg, she of the genius sort of sage presence on The View.
Thanks.
She's like, I'm not saying that maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen, but maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen.
But how many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything?
Okay, so first of all, this is unbelievably stupid.
Yep.
We've seen many, many cases of police brutality against white people. Every single day on The View is a contest in stupidity. Truly, it's an amazingly competitive match between some of the dumbest people on earth. No one really notices on a given day that Whoopi Goldberg is a very dumb person who says very dumb things because everybody else is so dumb on The View that she's constantly outshone. She seems like the most sane person on The View, which is kind of an amazing statement. Trying to suss out which person on The View is least intelligent is an exercise in quantum mechanics.
It used to be a talk show. Now, it's a full-blown gladiator arena of brain-melting opinions and theatrical meltdowns. Welcome to The View, where intellect goes to die and volume replaces reason. Imagine tuning in for a thoughtful discussion and getting hit with a verbal food fight instead. It's not a panel, it's a competition. Who can hijack the topic first, twist it into a pretzel of nonsense, and deliver it with Oscar-worthy conviction? At the epicenter of this madness, Whoopi Goldberg, the so-called sage of the circle, but let's be honest, half the time it sounds like she skimmed a meme, ignored the facts, and hit go live. The show has turned into a surreal social experiment, like watching intellectual bumper cars collide on live TV. One day they're decoding the planets to explain wildfires. The next, they're rewriting world history with the confidence of a drunk historian. The entire table is a rotating chaos machine of half-baked theories and emotional overreactions wrapped in applause bait. But then, something shifted. For once, the laughter stopped. The outside world, fed up with the circus, stepped in with a scalpel instead of a snarky tweet. Oh, and before we dive deeper into the unraveling, hit that subscribe button and like the video. Because what we're about to expose, you won't want to miss it. Now let's keep going. It only gets crazier from here.
Well, folks, as you know, I love one show on TV more than any show on TV. The View.
Gary!
I've had a lifelong ambition to actually be a guest on The View. They'll never have me on, of course, because it would go horribly for them. But today, we're going to go through some of the cringiest moments from The View, a repository of nearly all human stupidity, total IQ, 7 on who you talk to. Whoopi, always available to sign in.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
To both compare Israel and the United States to terrorist organizations and also compare terrorist organizations to apparently not terrorist organizations. Like, Hamas is not a terrorist organization? Oh, man. It is amazing because Whoopi is sort of seen on this show as sort of the wise old sage. And I have to say, you need better sages.
Then came Ben Shapiro. Not a guest, but a wrecking ball. The man talks like there's a shot clock in his ear and a file cabinet of receipts in his brain. He didn't sit at the View's table, but it sure felt like he kicked the door in. The trigger? A moment so bizarre it could only happen live. Whoopi Goldberg, mid-segment on police reform, looked dead into the camera and said, "How many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything?" Yes, she said that. And Shapiro? He didn't just respond. He scalpel'd it apart. No emotion, just precision, logic, and a smirk that said, "This is too easy." What was supposed to be powerful turned into a full-blown credibility meltdown, and Shapiro made sure everyone saw it.
She's trying to make an anti-Trump argument. She's like, I can say anything I want. And she's like, I'm going to say something super racist. They're all like, yeah. Well, apparently her hair was not her only bad decision that day.
The Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race. No, it's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
No!
That's what it's about.
This wasn't some muddled soundbite. It was loud, clear, and wildly reckless. Shapiro didn't wait. He hit back fast. Stats, cases, and cold facts that shattered Whoopi's claim. Her confidence made it worse, like she dropped a universal truth instead of a deeply flawed opinion. It felt less like a talk show and more like a professor dismantling a school play in real time. The panel nodded along. Shapiro stood outside, stunned, like watching people argue that gravity is fake. But then it got worse. Whoopi took it further, diving headfirst into the Holocaust. And with a straight face, on live TV she said, the Holocaust wasn't about race. Yes, that happened, and everything exploded after that.
We saw Whoopi Goldberg over the weekend suggest that Nikki Haley is not a new generation. How can you say she's a new generation? Whoopi Goldberg is 67 years old. Nikki Haley is 51 years old. Donald Trump is nearing 80. Joe Biden is 80. So yeah, technically speaking, she is in fact a new generation. But here is Whoopi Goldberg speaking for the youth of America.
Now that's what they're saying. Suddenly, everybody said, oh yeah, it should reflect all of us. Okay.
She didn't just misspeak, she rewrote history on live TV. Whoopi claimed the Holocaust was merely man's inhumanity to man, casually tossing aside the core of Nazi ideology that explicitly targeted Jews as a race. This wasn't a fumble. It was a full-throttle, confident declaration. And the internet? It went nuclear. But Ben Shapiro? He locked on like a missile. He didn't just call it wrong, he called it dangerous. With Nazi documents, direct quotes, and high school-level history, he dismantled her take line by line. The worst part? She doubled down. Not only did she defend it in a follow-up, but her apology felt like PR spin, not genuine remorse. It wasn't just shocking, it was absurd, like saying 2 + 2 = 5 and demanding a standing ovation. And given her track record of off-the-wall comments, this wasn't a fluke. It was a pattern. This wasn't cancel culture. This was a national truth bomb, and Whoopi lit the fuse.
So Whoopi Goldberg was on that great repository of all human intelligence, The View, and she was explaining that people who are not using masks are going to make things more dangerous for themselves. She was talking about how the mask will protect you from the flu. Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Well, no, you know.
Well, you did have that.
I did have a cough, and when you
Had a
did
little
not show
cold.
up, Brian goes, thanks, Whoopi's out.
Well, I assume that is because when you have little ones, you will always have things that you travel with. So as people tell you, yeah, take off your mask, don't worry about it, we're not going to check anymore. Just know the flu
It's still
will fly in. Okay, 'cause the flu flew in and got me.
Okay, so I'm just going to point out here that the entire narrative on the mask was about COVID. And now they're we should probably wear a mask because if you take off the mask, the flu will fly in.
Then came the fire extinguisher, packed with facts, not feelings. Picture the scene. Daytime TV in soft pastels, forced laughs, and an audience trained to clap at anything that sounds vaguely woke. It's not a debate table, it's a feelings-first fantasy land where catchy slogans beat actual arguments. Welcome to The View. And at the center of this echo chamber, Whoopi Goldberg, armed with one-liners, vibes, and whatever take was trending on her feed the night before. Research? Absent. Receipts? None. Just raw emotion. And usually, that's more than enough for the crowd. But not this time. Ben Shapiro didn't walk in to debate. He came to dissect. While Whoopi played to the claps, Shapiro played to the facts. And the difference? Unmistakable. He didn't meet her energy. He overpowered it with clarity.
This was taken as anti-Semitism. She didn't say the Jews weren't specifically targeted, by the way. She didn't actually say an anti-Semitic thing the way that Whoopi Goldberg did. She just said that when people are inhumane to each other, bad things happen. For this great crime, she was not suspended. She was fired outright from The Mandalorian, losing presumably hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary. And she was one of the main characters, and they were considering a spin-off of The Mandalorian with Gina. They fired Gina, so we hired her, right? We have a new movie that's coming out with Gina Carano in the next couple of months, which I'm excited to tell you about. Okay, but they fired her outright, did Disney. Whoopi Goldberg says something far worse in every respect than Gina Carano ever said about the Holocaust. And she's gonna get a 2-week suspension.
While Whoopi spun emotional monologues like she was trying to cast a spell, Ben Shapiro rolled in like a forensic analyst. Calm, cold, and loaded with receipts. Her co-hosts lost at sea. Joy Behar looked like she'd stumbled into a foreign film with no subtitles. Sarah Haynes stared ahead like she was trying to recall an ancient Wi-Fi password. The energy in the room shifted fast. This wasn't just a disagreement. This was a full-on exposure. And when backed into a corner, Whoopi defaulted to her usual fallback. Well, I just think, as if that alone should end all discussion. But I just think doesn't stand a chance against hard data, historical facts, and airtight logic. And for the first time, her confidence visibly cracked. You could see it the moment she realized the room wasn't hers anymore. Then came the final blow. Shapiro dropped the guncher, calling out Whoopi's infamous defense of comparing Israel and the US to terror groups while soft-pedaling groups like Hamas. Her response? Evasive, vague, and completely outmatched. It wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a takedown.
Never look for consistency with the left. It is all just a game of power. In any case, Goldberg apparently is livid and feels humiliated over the suspension. She feels ABC executives mishandled this. She followed their playbook. She went on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and then apologized again on The View the next day, the source told the Post. Her ego has been hurt. She's telling people she's going to quit. Suspension from The View is like getting suspended from Bravo. The bar is very low. Prior to her suspension, sources that spoke with Page Six said that employees and executives, including insiders at Disney, were furious over her remarks and the fact she had not been disciplined yet.
Whoopi shocked viewers claiming Hamas wasn't really a terrorist group, twisting the facts live on air. Millions watched as she blurred the line between countries defending themselves and groups launching rockets at civilians. Shapiro hit back hard, dropping official terror designations and undeniable proof of Hamas's atrocities. This wasn't a correction, it was a full-on demolition. Whoopi's emotional babble got crushed by Shapiro's ruthless facts. The show went from debate to brutal takedown. Once seen as the voice of reason, Whoopi fumbled while her co-host looked ready to vanish. But Shapiro kept hammering the double standard, pointing out others who lost careers for less, like Gina Carano. It was more than opinions clashing. It was a harsh reality check for Whoopi, The View, and everyone watching. And just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, Whoopi launched into a confusing rant about face masks.
Whoopi Goldberg, yesterday, she did her full apologies. You'll remember that 2 days ago, Whoopi Goldberg went on The View and she suggested that the Holocaust was not about race. And this tied into a broader ideology of the left, which suggests that Jews are white people, and therefore, the Holocaust was actually white people attacking white people, which is a thing she actually said on air. Then she went on Stephen Colbert, where she quasi-apologized and then doubled down and suggested once again that the Holocaust was not about racism because it was white people attacking other white people. She issued a written statement. The written statement came out before the Colbert appearance, but probably was written after she had taped for Colbert already. In any case, she came out on the air yesterday, and then she did her fulsome apology.
On live TV, Whoopi claimed that ditching masks would unleash the flu like some invisible, airborne predator ready to strike. It was baffling, even by The View's chaotic standards. Shapiro didn't even need to get loud. He just played back her words and let the glaring contradictions destroy themselves. First, masks were all about COVID. Now suddenly they're magical shields against the flu. The goalposts weren't just shifted, they were obliterated. Instead of backing down, Whoopi went full damage control, raising her voice, piling on emotion, and hitting her tired fallback. Well, I just think. Like feelings alone could rewrite science. Shapiro stayed ice cold, calmly smashing her shaky logic with her own words. It was like watching a sandcastle get washed away by an unforgiving tide of facts. The audience clapped, but the awkward silence between those claps screamed the truth. As tension peaked, Whoopi doubled down on emotion, repeating, "Well, I just feel like," as if feelings could overturn facts in a public debate. But Shapiro? He didn't flinch. He unleashed a tidal wave of logic, history, and economic jargon no one else even followed. Meanwhile, her co-host squirmed. Joy Behar looked like she wanted to disappear. The audience nervously laughed, caught between loyalty and disbelief. Ben remained cool and collected, letting the silence after his takedown do the talking. Whoopi's argument didn't just lose, it crumbled. Then came the most brutal moment. The pause. Dead silence. Whoopi froze mid-rant, eyes wide, searching for a lifeline. None came. It was pure humiliation, worse than any insult. Her co-host scrambled to save her with weak agree-to-disagree lines, but the damage was irreversible. Everyone wanted to escape the awkward mess. Online, the reaction was nuclear. Screenshots of her stunned face flooded Twitter. Memes exploded. People called it the most satisfying public takedown in daytime TV history. But this wasn't just viral chaos. It was a symbol of what happens when you face a mountain of facts armed only with feelings. Whoopi didn't just lose the debate, she vanished from it. The fallout didn't stop there. People dug into her history of bizarre takes, racism, economics, you name it, and it was clear this wasn't a one-time slip. It was a pattern. Then came the glaring double standard. Gina Carano got fired immediately for a much milder controversy. Whoopi, 2 weeks off and back on air like nothing happened. Shapiro hammered home the hypocrisy, media bias, protected sacred cows, and unequal consequences. making sure no one missed the injustice. Even after all that, Whoopi tried to reclaim control on Stephen Colbert's show, but her apology sounded like a confused ramble, like she still didn't get it. Next day, she doubled down on the same claims. Her defense? It felt valid when I said it. That's not logic. That's emotional chaos pretending to be reason. Meanwhile, Shapiro remained unshaken, calmly backing his points with facts, history, and law, like a professor correcting a kindergarten essay. Supporters tried to spin emotional intelligence, but the internet wasn't buying it. Screenshots and savage threads flooded every platform, turning this into a full-blown digital reckoning. Then Shapiro dropped the final hammer, a podcast breakdown so thorough, it was like watching a masterclass in demolishing bad arguments. Clips went viral, shattering The View's weekly ratings. Behind the scenes, Whoopi was reportedly furious, feeling betrayed by ABC for suspending her despite following their playbook. She even threatened to quit. But here's the kicker. Getting suspended from The View is like failing a free trial. The bar is embarrassingly low, and Whoopi still smashed through it like a wrecking ball of bad takes. After all the backlash and damage control, she still didn't get it. Her final defense boiled down to, "It felt true when I said it." That's not a defense. It's a shrug dressed as a statement. Meanwhile, Shapiro, he was relaxed, quoting Aristotle and linking articles no one asked for. He looked like he just won a spelling bee while everyone else was still trying to figure out what logic means. This spectacle didn't just expose Whoopi's weak arguments, it shredded her credibility live on air. What this showdown really exposed: when your entire brand is built on feelings, applause, and gut reactions, you crumble the second cold, hard facts walk through the door. Whoopi stepped into the ring armed with glitter and emotion, and walked out clutching a headache and the new face of viral memes. This wasn't just a clash of opinions anymore, it was a full-blown culture war. Feelings versus facts, vibes against evidence. And this time, facts hit harder than anyone saw coming. Then came the silence, that bone-chilling, soul-crushing pause that landed like a knockout punch, not just from Whoopi, but from everyone watching. Co-hosts froze, the audience held their breath. Even the guy with the applause sign looked like he'd forgotten the cue. Time itself seemed to stop. Whoopi was speechless, blinking in disbelief, desperately searching for any lifeline. But the well had run dry. Her emotional armor shattered. Her usual defenses were shattered. And sitting across from her, Ben Shapiro's smug grin was the picture of calm confidence, like a cat who knows exactly where the treats are hidden. He didn't have to say a word. That silence was his mic drop moment. Look at the co-hosts' faces. Joy Behar like a deer trapped in headlights, Sarah Haynes scanning for an escape, and Sunny Hostin. She looked like she just realized she bet everything on the wrong hand. That silence hit like a tidal wave. Not awkward, but undeniable. The truth bulldozed through the vibe, leaving no survivors, no music, no cheery outro, just pure, raw stillness, the loudest statement of all. That's the scalpel-like power of facts, sharp, precise, and irreversible. And with that silence echoing across the screen, what counted was simple. He came ready. Whoopi didn't. She showed up with feelings. He brought an arsenal of facts. Watching them clash was like seeing someone try to fight a calculator with a diary of dreams. The contrast was brutal. Even Shapiro skeptics had to admit, that was one savage, clean takedown. The View? They acted like nothing happened. Next day, back to astrology, celebrity tea, and faux philosophical quotes. But the internet? It never forgot. Memes exploded. Screenshots of Whoopi's stunned face flooded comment sections everywhere. And Shapiro, he wasn't finished. He dropped a full-on, no-holds-barred recap. A post-game dissection of every single flaw in Whoopi's crumbling arguments, grading her like a failed final exam. While Whoopi was busy lighting sage sticks trying to spiritually reboot, Shapiro was firing off legal cases, historical records, and cold, hard stats. This wasn't just a win, it was a seismic statement. Truth doesn't need cheers. It only needs one perfect moment of silence to say it all.